We have with us talking about Assad, and you have seen, of course, our interview that came on last night, where Assad spoke with Nis Kucinich, Fox News contributor, and of course Greg Palkot was in the room as well. But joining us from Los Angeles, Robert O'Brien. He's a former U.S. rep, and he is here to talk about the whole issue with Assad and chemical weapons and chemical arms. First of all, did you happen to see the interview last night?
I did. It was impressive that Fox ran the whole hour uninterrupted. That's something you don't see, and it was great to put this guy and show how cold-blooded he is in front of the American people, unfiltered.
Yeah, unfiltered is interesting. Before we have actually a clip I'm going to play in a second, but first of all, unfiltered in a way. However, with Assad, what's so interesting, I think, and for those people who maybe have not followed him in his history and the history of his family, and for that matter, Syria, here's a man who wears a suit, he wears a tie. He's soft-spoken, at least that's the persona he puts out there. And this interview, in some respects, is he working the media? I mean, is he trying to get a different image of him out there as not being the